PowerBoat Television is brought to you by Yamaha. Conquer water with Yamaha. Cruisers Yachts. Luxury yachts and bow riders for all your adventures. And BoatBuys.com. 60,000 new and used boats for sale.
Here it comes, the most sensational invention since summer. Sea-Doo, the jet-powered aqua scooter from Bombardier. Hey.
Welcome to Laughlin, Nevada on the shores of the Colorado River. In 1968, Sea-Doo introduced the first ever personal watercraft. And today, in 2018, 50 years later, things have come a long way. And so obviously, like any year, there's new models and advancements. But to mark 50 years since that first Sea-Doo, they've got some big changes.
Media from as far away as Canada and Australia have been invited here to test out the new models for 2018. After the morning briefing, we set out down the Colorado River. From here in Laughlin, Nevada, to Needles, California, and even further into the Topok Gorge.
See you in Needles.
Sea-Doo, new from Bombardier.
We got a little more than a dozen riders in the water right now. It's pretty breezy, and it's also pretty shallow around here. So you're on the London Jet Boat Tour as our camera boat. This captain knows the water, so you're gonna be mama duck. We'll be the ducklings trailing behind you. But as you can see for 2018, like look how stable it is. This gray and black one, a big guy can stand on the side. You have all the different color options. You're sitting lower. First impressions, pretty impressive.
What better way to experience 50 years of innovation than riding these awesome new machines down this scenic waterway?
I know that was only the first leg, but that was pretty cool. But it is shallow, so you're whipping along at 45 miles an hour and you can see the rocks underneath you. Luckily, the scenery around is so stunning that you're not looking down too much.
Rather reluctantly, we eased off on the throttle, but only with the promise of lunch. And after departing Nevada, cruised into Topok 66 along historic Route 66.
One of the key features of the new hull design is how stable it is. They talk about the stability while you're running, yeah, that's great, but when you're idle getting on and off, that's huge. Now, I am not a petite man, and I'm standing on one side. I'm not going anywhere.
After lunch, we continued down the Colorado River towards the picturesque Topok Gorge. Along the way, I had a chance to ride several of the new machines and did so in a musical chairs kind of fashion.
Yeah, GTX. All right, well, yeah. Stop it.
And while they're all built on a similar platform, they are each very unique in their performance. Once we made it to the Topok Gorge, we set up camp on a secluded beach nestled below the confines of the high red cliffs. You've gotta love the West. It's amazing how far these machines have come from the first one a half-century ago.
So in 1968, it might have been yellow, it might have had a Rotax engine, and it might have said Sea-Doo. But compared to this, that was like a horse and buggy. This thing is a performance monster, an absolute beast. That's awesome.
Here, the media from Japan, Australia, Canada, and across the US took down notes and first impression reviews. In fact, Sea-Doo asked us to give a tweet of our first impressions after the ride.
It's got music, #finally. It's got a more forgiving hull, and it is a ton of fun. I'm actually really impressed.
When we come back later in the show, we'll get an in-depth look at the killer features on the all-new Sea-Doo platform from one of the big cheeses themselves, Sea-Doo's global manager.
50 years later, we couldn't just do new colors and graphics. We had to come out with something that was really, truly amazing for our riders.
If you're looking for a great family bow rider, you might want to check out the QX19 from Rinker. If you're looking for a great family bow rider, you might want to check out the QX19 from Rinker.
Family bow riders have a demanding job. They need to be light enough to easily trailer, big enough to haul a bunch of people in their gear, fun enough to entertain the youngsters while being comfortable enough for an evening cruise. The QX19 manages this long list of demands with a comparable list of features.
When it comes to small 19, 20-foot bow riders, there's a lot to choose from in the market these days. And one of the big players in the game is certainly Rinker. And this QX19's got a lot of features built in.
Starting with space, there is seating for 9 people. Wraparound cushions and padded backrests provide comfort and flexible seating arrangements in the bow. 2 bucket seats with flip-up bolsters swivel to face a wide aft bench in the cockpit. These bucket seats have comfortable cutouts at the back and adjust forward or aft on sliders. The storage on this 19-foot boat rivals that of a pontoon. In fact, we counted 7 storage compartments to help keep your gear out of sight, including a large in-floor ski locker with a perforated map to help dry out the water toys. A dedicated spot for a 9-gallon cooler is a nice touch, although you do have to remove a center cushion to get into it. And no Rinker would be complete without a trash can, which is located to port under the sun pad. Maybe not the most practical spot, but at least there is one, and it's out of sight. The Captain's Choice package on our test boat adds a few more valuable features. A stainless scuff plate at the bow helps protect the gel coat when pulling up an anchor. Retractable pull-up cleats look great and reduce the chance of catching a toe or finger when jumping in and out of the water. LED cockpit and swim lights look cool while reducing demand on the batteries, and a bimini top offers welcome shade on those blazing hot days.
Now this boat can be had with a stern drive or an outboard. This one's got the 4.5 liter from Merc, and it goes pretty darn good.
This Mercury-designed V6 is compact, smooth, and powerful. A perfect match for the QX19. With 250 horsepower on tap, we managed to get on plane in just over 5 seconds, so pulling a skier or a wakeboarder will not be an issue. Plus, the stern drive version allows for a more functional swim platform and a much bigger sun pad. But the specs don't tell the whole story. V6s aren't supposed to sound as good as a V8, but listen to that engine. Wide open, it sounds fantastic. Ride comfort is reasonably good for a boat this size. Crossing our camera boat's wake didn't produce any pounding, but occasionally required a little steering correction to stay on course. Handling is surprisingly quick and fun. A light touch on the wheel is all that's needed to change direction, and she will turn completely around in a very short distance. When performing a few tight turns, I was a little surprised to find I didn't have to add any throttle to keep the boat on plane. Mercury's adaptive speed control helps maintain engine RPM when turning, which should make it easier for those not used to towing.
You know, you gotta hand it to Rinker. They pack a lot of features in such a value-priced package. Now, this boat can be had for under $40,000. With a 4.5 liter stern drive, that's impressive.
The 414cc is the largest and most powerful Mako has ever made. The 414cc is the largest and most powerful Mako has ever made. Weighs in at 17,500 pounds dry and has a max horsepower of 1,675. And for the price, they've packed in an impressive amount of toys, storage, and hardcore fishing features, all while keeping it luxurious enough to take your family out for a cruise.
Doesn't matter what edition you go for in the 414, they're all designed with a fishing-first mentality. And here in the cockpit is a great example of all of that. So as you can see, a ton of room to work all around the boat, but it quickly converts to ample seating all around the boat, and you have easy on and off access through the dive door or tuna door. And when you get to that spot, friends and family can get up, fold their own seats in, and just like that, you're back to a hardcore fishing boat. Now, you have two 50-gallon live wells back here to work with, and right here in the center, you have storage. Use it as a cooler, it's drained. What I think is ultra clever is there's a piece of starboard on here. If you're using this as a fishing boat, this is gonna get cut up and chewed, and instead of worrying about putting down a mat or something like that, two little screws, you can replace that piece of starboard however often you need to. Working our way up to the helm, the first thing you'll see is this light up threshold marker. Now, as cool as that looks, that's actually built in for a safety factor because we're raised up a couple inches. Every time you turn the boat on, fire up your batteries, that light comes on. Now, you can turn it off if you want, but it'll help you save a few toe stubbings. At the helm itself, this impressive dash up here is actually standard, including lights and switches. You'll see seat in and seat out. What that does, it actually slides the whole captain's bench to allow you to customize where exactly you want your seat or leaning post. Great sight lines, thanks to being raised up. And to help with those sight lines, especially when you're docking, you have two cameras back here to go with the ones facing forward. So you have 360 view of your vessel, which you can actually access on the Sharktooth app as well to check on things if you want, or just help you give peace of mind when docking. And on the cooktop, a very clever touch. These pop up, keep your pot secured, but pop out of the way, nice and clean. Big sink, also comes out hot or cold.
Underneath the deck, there's actually 3 fuel tanks. The center large tank and 2 smaller ones on the sides with controlled transfer, but also with manual bypass switches. Down here, you also have the option for the Seakeeper gyro stabilizer.
And within the console is the head. There's so much room down here, in fact, that if the captain wants to stay aboard as a live-aboard charter captain or finds himself in the doghouse, you have a small but functional berth down here. It fits 1.5 people, 2 little ones, and you have access to your panel. Big fish boxes and storage. You have the channels, and they're thick. Twice as thick as what your neighbor's old Mako would have. The new generation of Mako offshore boats are all gonna have that. So it's a little more sturdy, better insulation. Also, you have this very big, very comfortable, and very cool forward-facing lounger that conceals. Easy access, just a couple fingers, crammed full of stuff. And these gas shocks back here, crisscross, may not jump out to you as super important, but trust me, it's very clever. Usually you'll find them along the sides here, which means you can't access your storage from 2 of the 3 access points. Here, you can. Moving even further forward, you have this bow lounge area, which you get if you go for the family edition. But don't think you've given up all of this space for fishing, because these backrests come out. These cushions all come off. And I actually kind of like this raised casting platform here. Also, again, with that fish first mentality, you see how wide the caps are. So if you need to, you can get up on here. If you're working to fish around, you have a lot of room to work. You can help with docking, but you still have all that great room down in the bow lounge on the family edition.
As tested, we had quad 350 horsepower Mercury Verados and cruised nicely at 40 miles per hour, which was right around the 4,400 RPM mark. Full out, the 414 can hit and just crack 60 miles per hour. Acceleration won't knock you down on your seat, but hitting 30 miles per hour in 9 seconds is impressive on such a big boat. The 24-degree dead rise, plus the length and beam, means this cuts smoothly through waves and wakes, and this is more than capable of blue water fishing. In terms of handling, this thing bites the water and banks sharply, so you better be hanging on. But tight quarters and docking is arguably the most stressful handling situation on any boat, especially when it's windy. But with Mercury's joystick piloting, you can put this Mako exactly where you want it.
This week, we're gonna replace the thermostat. Pretty small part, pretty straightforward job. The engine on your boat is a lot like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It can't be too cold, it can't be too hot, it's gotta be just right. Now, what exactly the optimal temperature is for your engine, you'd have to check. For example, this 5-liter MerCruiser MPI will run at a different temperature than the 7.4 liters on my boat. But if it's running too cold, you're not getting all the performance you want out of it, and you're probably not doing the environment any favors by wasting some gas. And if it's running too hot, you run the risk of some serious damage. So a good place to start is the thermostat. So that's what we're gonna do this week. We're gonna replace the thermostat. Pretty small part, pretty straightforward job, hopefully, knock on wood. And on this boat, it is easily accessible. And so we got just a couple hoses to remove. We'll move the housing, and it should be a simple drop.
A classic first-timer error is to try and yank the thermostat out because it seems stuck. It's not, it's just secured within a plastic housing. So take that off first, and it should slide right out. Old versus new. Stamped right onto the bottom is 160, and that's the opening temperature. You'll want to make sure you carefully get all of the old gaskets off both the engine and the housing so your new parts can sit flush. Then put a little sealer compound around the rim before putting the new gasket in for an even better seal. There's the notch on the plastic housing to make sure it all slides in all lined up, and then do everything in reverse, being careful to place the housing down so you don't lose your gaskets. And then reconnect the hoses and tighten the clamps. And make sure the housing itself is secured. Bingo bango, Goldilocks and the correct temperature motor is ready to rock. Back in the warm desert sun of Needles, California, tucked off of the Colorado River, we've got a chance to go over the new Sea-Doo platform with a fine-tooth comb.
Everybody knows that Sea-Doo is known for innovation. I mean, we brought the first watercraft from Sea-Doo 50 years ago. We had the first 2-seater watercraft. We had the first on-the-water brake. We reinvented the whole game with the Sea-Doo Spark. And so 50 years later, we couldn't just do new colors and graphics. We had to come out with something that was really, truly amazing for our riders.
Sea-Doo splashes, spins, jumps over any wake.
For sure, in the showrooms, you're gonna walk in and you're gonna see them like that, I bet.
Absolutely. This is something that doesn't exist on the market right now. So any other watercraft doesn't even look as cool as that when it comes to storage. And that's functional storage, 27 gallons. This rear seat is modular. You can pull it right off. So if you're in an offshore environment, you can just go one-up riding. You can also throw it in the footwell, and then you have a massive space to kick back and relax, put your head right here, throw the tunes on, and you're chilling like never before.
Sweet.
And also, if you have your date with you, which I know you do all the time, you can put it on the back there and you both can sit face to face, toss that new Link cooler in the middle, and you've got seating options like never before. True to Sea-Doo form, we're not going to give you 300 horses and acceleration from 0 to 60 in about 3.8 seconds without you feeling like you're in control. And so these new models have the traditional ergolock seating to let you grab the machine with the strongest muscles in your body, which are your legs, so you can hold on and feel in control and unlock the full power that you have between your legs. So that's really exclusive to Sea-Doo, and you won't see that type of ergonomics anywhere else on the market.
My favorite thing might just be the launch control, though. You hit VTS up and down at the same time. It says launch control on, and that'll auto trim the VTS, the variable trim system, for the perfect takeoff, and then constantly adjust it as I'm taking off. So check this out. You better be hanging on if you do it.
I think it's time we revisit the original ad as our 50th birthday gift.
Sea-Doo splashes, spins, jumps over any weight, invents more fun and games than any water sport before.
And now, the remake.
Behold, the 2018 Sea-Doo from BRP. 50 years later, there's an all-new platform to focus on. Wider than the 2017s, they're stable enough to stand on one side and do yoga. Even the husky rider can attempt it. Hey! Oh, come on, you own a mirror. There you go, big guy. For the first time, Sea-Doo has speakers. Easier access to the engine. There's so much to love, why President Johnson himself would be impressed. And just like the original, the 2018s are great to take you to the beach.
You can still beach it. I wouldn't come wailing onto it full speed like they did in that commercial. Learned different things in '68.
And when you're on the beach, you can see the all-new ST3 hull with the deep V bow and the hard chines. So forgiving, anyone can ride like a pro, even the least skilled driver like this guy.
Not cool voiceover.
Easy, Stevie. Sea-Doo. Now you can go farther and do more than ever before. And you have room for the whole family. And that's noble.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that's going to be the next major campaign you'll be seeing. But until that takes over, I'll close by saying this. I've been lucky enough to ride a lot of Sea-Doos over my 4 years with PowerBoat Television, and I can honestly say this is, by a clear margin, the best handling, the most enjoyable ride, the best overall Sea-Doo I've ever been on. I'm truly impressed. And I just hope I'm this fresh at 50.
That's cool. It really does launch you.